there is a particular kind of confusion that leaves no visible mark. You walk away from a conversation unsure of what just happened, apologizing for something you cannot quite name, doubting a memory you were certain of only minutes before. Nothing was shouted. Nothing looked, from the outside, like harm. And yet something in you feels slightly rearranged, as though the room itself had quietly shifted while you weren't looking. Why does clarity so often dissolve in the presence of certain people? Why do you leave some conversations feeling less certain of yourself than when you arrived? Before we explore this together, subscribe to this channel where we uncover the hidden psychology behind everyday life. Picture a house with a door you do not remember being there before. You have lived in this house for years, know its walls, its floors, its light at every hour of the day. And yet, one afternoon, you notice a door in a hallway you were certain had always been solid. Did you simply overlook it all this time? Or has something been quietly rearranged, so gradually that you never noticed the architecture itself changing around you? Carl Jung believed that every person wears a persona, a curated face shown to the world, shaped to be accepted, admired, trusted. But what happens when someone learns to use that persona not simply to be liked, but as a tool, a lever, a way of moving other people exactly where they want them to go? What if the door you didn't remember was never a mistake in your memory at all, but evidence of something being moved without your notice? This is the shape a master manipulator often takes, not a villain in the obvious sense, but someone fluent in appearances, skilled at wearing whichever mask a given moment requires. And the unsettling part is rarely their cruelty. It is how reasonable, how convincing, how sincere they manage to seem the entire time. So what does this actually look like in the ordinary texture of a relationship? Not always dramatic. Often quiet enough to miss entirely. The first sign is the quiet rewriting of events. You remember a conversation clearly, and yet they insist, calmly and without hesitation, that it happened differently or never happened at all. Why does their certainty feel stronger than your own memory? Because manipulation rarely announces itself as an argument. It arrives as calm, unwavering confidence, and confidence has a way of making doubt feel like the more reasonable position. The second sign is the debt that appears out of nowhere. A favor, once given freely, is later invoked as leverage evidence of your obligation, proof of what you supposedly owe. Was the original kindness ever really a gift? Or was it, from the very beginning, an investment made with interest already calculated? The third sign is the compliment that arrives exactly when you begin to pull away. Just as a boundary starts to form, warmth reappears, attentive, flattering, perfectly timed. Is this affection, or is it a mechanism, tuned precisely to your resistance, designed to dissolve it before it can fully take shape? The fourth sign is the subtle recasting of you as the difficult one. Somehow, in every retelling, you become the person who overreacts, who cannot take a joke, who is too sensitive for a moment that, in memory, felt genuinely unkind. Why does the story always end with you as its most unstable character? Because a skilled manipulator understands that if they can shift the narrative early enough, they never need to defend their own behavior at all. The fifth sign is the sudden fragility that surfaces whenever you express a need. The moment you ask for something honestly, they become wounded, overwhelmed, suddenly the one requiring comfort, and somehow your original need quietly disappears beneath the task of managing their reaction to it. Is this vulnerability, or is it a redirection, practiced so smoothly it no longer feels like a tactic even to the person using it? The sixth sign is the persistent low-grade sense that you are performing for an audience of one, adjusting your words carefully, rehearsing your sentences before you say them, aware, on some level, that honesty might cost you more than it should. Why does one particular relationship require so much more calculation than any other? Perhaps because some part of you has already recognized what your conscious mind has not yet admitted. But here is the deeper question, the one worth sitting with far longer than any single sign. Why does this dynamic so often feel disorienting rather than simply upsetting? Anger has a clear shape. Confusion does not. And confusion, uncomfortable as it is, might actually be the clue. Jung believed that the shadow, the part of a person unacknowledged, often unacceptable even to themselves, does not disappear simply because it goes unexamined. It finds other paths outward, often through influence rather than confrontation. A manipulator does not necessarily know, consciously, that this is what they are doing. Many believe, quite sincerely, that they are only protecting themselves, only asking for what is fair, only reacting reasonably to a world they experience as unfair. What if the manipulation is not a mask worn on purpose, but a shadow no one ever taught them to face? This does not make it your responsibility to fix, but it might change how you carry what you've noticed. Not necessarily as an accusation to prove, but as information, quietly gathered, entirely your own. Consider the tree standing bare through winter, appearing from a distance like something finished, something without depth. Yet beneath the visible stillness, roots continue widening in the dark, gathering strength invisible to anyone simply passing by. Is confusion always a sign that something in you is failing? Or can it be the visible surface of something underground finally beginning to make sense? This is the turn worth making gently here. The discomfort you feel around this person is not a flaw in your perception. It may be the beginning of something Jung called individuation, the slow, uneven process of trusting your own inner compass over someone else's carefully constructed version of reality. Individuation, in moments like this, rarely feels like triumph while it is happening. It tends to feel, at first, like guilt for finally noticing. So what do you do with a feeling this disorienting? This is where the observer becomes essential, the quiet witness inside you capable of noticing confusion without immediately absorbing it as truth. Not the part of you that apologizes reflexively, unsure of what exactly went wrong. The part that can simply notice, calmly, I feel unsteady after this conversation. And that feeling is information, not proof of my own instability. Seneca often wrote of examining a disturbance carefully before accepting it as reality, understanding that the mind, left unexamined, will accept almost any story it is told with enough conviction. Can you feel the ground shift beneath a conversation and pause there, rather than immediately rearranging your own memory to match theirs? Can you trust the discomfort itself as data, long before you have language to fully explain it? And here is something worth noticing. If you look honestly, this particular disorientation has likely visited you before. Different face, different year, the same peculiar sense of losing your own footing in someone else's company. Why does life seem to circle back to the same lesson, dressed differently each time, until it is finally understood? Jung believed that whatever remains unconscious in us tends to reappear in our lives as pattern, as recurrence, as the uncanny feeling of having stood in this exact place before. Perhaps this is not simply about the person in front of you now. Perhaps it is the newest version of an older question. When did you first learn to doubt your own perception in order to keep a relationship intact? Viktor Frankl believed that between what happens to a person and how they respond, a space exists narrow, but entirely their own. You cannot control whether someone else chooses influence over honesty. But the space between noticing the pattern and continuing to excuse it, that space belongs entirely to you. So what would it actually look like to grow through this, rather than simply endure it? Not something dramatic. Not a single dramatic confrontation that resolves everything at once. It might look like trusting a memory even when someone insists, with total confidence, that it never happened. It might look like sitting with someone's disappointment in you without rushing to repair it. It might look like choosing your own clarity over the comfort of being thought agreeable. It might look like quietly stepping back from a relationship, not out of anger, but out of a simple refusal to keep doubting yourself for someone else's comfort. None of this arrives with fanfare. Jung once suggested that people will do almost anything to avoid confronting an uncomfortable truth. And if that is true, then simply trusting your own perception, quietly and without needing anyone else's permission, may already be a significant act of courage. Return, For a moment, to that door in the hallway you did not remember being there. Imagine standing in front of it now, not to force it open, not to demand an explanation from the house itself, but simply to acknowledge that it exists, that something has been moving, quietly, in rooms you once trusted completely. Does that make you foolish for not noticing sooner? Or does it simply mean you are noticing now? And so we return to the question beneath all 6 signs, beneath every rewritten memory, every perfectly timed compliment, every quiet redirection of blame. What actually remains of you once someone else's version of your story is finally set down? What remains when you no longer need someone else's permission to trust your own memory, your own instincts, your own sense of what actually happened? Jung offered an answer that has outlasted him by nearly a century. Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Perhaps what you have been sensing in that hallway all along was never confusion at all. Perhaps it was clarity, arriving quietly, waiting only for you to trust it. If this resonated, subscribe to this channel and join us as we keep uncovering these hidden truths. What is one moment where you trusted your own instincts, even when someone tried to convince you otherwise? Write it in the comments below, and let that door, wherever you find it, finally be seen for what it is.